Hello, everyone. I am Zhao Chuan. Today, let's get to know Hynix, the beluga whale. As an adorable animal, the beluga whale is among the most popular in many aquariums or zoos worldwide. Wild beluga whales inhabit colder waters. They live in groups, have complex social behaviors, and are particularly intelligent. It has a strong logical capability, and may have a certain language capability, so people can communicate with it during raising. The beluga whale has a high brain capacity, but that has little to do with its relatively large forehead. This large forehead is soft tissue, which not houses its brain inside. Its skull resembles that of a crocodile, which is deeply buried in the head. But there is still a huge brain capacity at the rear of it, and the ratio of its skull to head is quite different. Its skull is tightly wrapped inside the head, with thick, soft tissue on the outside, making it bulbous. But the skull is relatively narrow. Its mouth is also relatively narrow. Looking at this model, you can observe that its entire mouth is relatively wide from the front, but from the bottom, you can see traces of the mandible on its lower jaw, which shows the real narrow shape of its mouth. This model well shows this point. When it closes its mouth, its upper lip covers part of its lower lip, and when it opens its mouth, its lower lip is depressed on both sides. Its upper lip hangs down like a Shar-Pei. When the mouth is closed, it presents this cute, smile-like appearance. The entire skin of the beluga whale is relatively smooth, but some fine wrinkles appear in parts it often moves, such as the area between the upper lip and the forehead. There are also finer folds around the eyes and under the neck. These are the parts that this animal frequently moves, and the same is true around its flippers. The body of beluga whales is very elongated, as this model shows, very long and very broad. It has a feature: the lower part of the abdomen is very flat, not only flat but with many muscles. The body of the beluga whale is flexible, and it swims fast, so its muscles are well developed. You can see the side of its body is also quite muscular due to the frequent twists. You can observe several pieces of muscles like this. The back of the beluga whale is not completely smooth. It has a series of relatively small bumps resembling the sperm whale. But unlike the prominent undulations of the sperm whale, the bumps are very subtle. The flippers of this animal are relatively roundish, a bit like those of a manatee, roundish, and look a bit like a rhombus as a whole. Like all cetaceans, it has fingers inside its flippers. Its fingers cannot be seen from the appearance, but if you look closely, there may be a few thicker fingers with light protrusions like this. Like most cetaceans, its nostril is on the top of the head, in the middle of the eyes. Same as most toothed whales, it has only one nostril, which is a sort of concave, that is usually closed. It has broad shoulders between its arms, and a complex of sturdy muscles in the middle. Its forelimbs are broad, because of its thick skin rather than the far distance between its shoulders. As an animal living in cold regions, it has a very thick fat layer. Its arm skeleton looks longer than general whales, but its skin will wrap to the elbow like most whales. Therefore, the fin starts from this part, which makes its shoulders thicker. It is more apparent, especially when viewed from behind. Although the body of the beluga whale is white, there are some black spots or patterns under the fins of some individuals. This model represents this situation. In addition, the tail of beluga whales is mighty in a blade-like shape. From the side, you can see its tail is very broad. If viewed from the top or below, it is relatively narrow because the spine of mammals is curved up and down. For example, observing a running cheetah, you can see its back bounces like this. But when fish swim, they swing their tails from side to side. Reptiles also inherit this from fish, so walking lizards or crocodiles twist their body left and right, and then move forward. And snakes do the same. We know that in evolutionary history, reptiles evolved from fish, and after they separated, one branch of reptiles evolved into mammals. Mammals had changed this behavior tracked back to their ancestors, which had moved their backs up and down. Therefore, you can see that, when reptiles returned to the sea, such as mosasaurs or ichthyosaurs, their tails still swung from side to side, like fish. But mammals, such as cetaceans or manatees, or even otters, when they went back to the water, their tails evolved to be flat because their spines were adapted to flap up and down. As all mammals have spines that bend up and down, its tail forms a horizontal structure. This is also an essential feature for identifying cetaceans as not fish. Next, let's look at its tail, which looks similar to many cetaceans at first glance, but there are still some noticeable differences. For example, the base of its tail is thicker and higher, so its tail looks like this. The two circles in the middle are raised upwards. The edge of its tail is not as sharp as many whales but more rounded. The whole tail looks relatively wider, thicker, and rounder. Besides, at the bottom of its tail, you can see some very fine stripes. These stripes are a bit like the veins of plants, which look special. What's more, the beluga whale is not large-sized. We often see it in the aquarium. It is a small whale that looks similar to a dolphin. However, it has a distinctive feature from dolphins, that is, it has no dorsal fin. Dolphins have dorsal fins, and so do many cetaceans, but beluga whales do not. The beluga whale looks very similar to its close relative, the narwhal, but its body structure is vastly different. For example, it has other teeth, and its body is not as smooth and round as the narwhal. Its body muscles look relatively developed, and the whole body is rather slender. Good, the above concludes our introduction to Hynix the beluga whale.